Baseball in the Boroughs is brought to you by Verizon. Let's talk about the Mets' 4-2 loss to the Marlins and their start to the second half of the season with Jake Brown, host of the Mets Magic podcast. My man, looked like a game that they could have rallied and come from behind and won. I guess I'll leave it up to you. Break down the 4-2 loss. What stood out to you?
Yeah, it's one of the uglier games you'll ever see, and from both sides. The Mets not being able to drive guys in. The Marlins, Fortes, 3 errors from a catcher. How rare is that when your catcher is that bad defensively? The Marlins were giving the Mets opportunities on a silver platter, and the Mets said, no, thank you. This looked like a lifeless team today and this weekend, and, Pete Alonso is getting very frustrating to watch. He continues to not come up clutch in big spots. He had 2 chances in a 1-run game to tie this game up or give the Mets the lead, and he could not do it. There is a reason he is on the trade block. There is a reason I don't believe he will be back with the Mets in the future. And, of course, he could turn around, and let's hope he does. But Pete Alonso, the stats might add up and look good towards the end of the season, but boy, has he not been clutch in big spots for this team. And when they need a single, they don't get it from him. He's got to put together better at-bats and come up big when the Mets need him. And J.D. Martinez, in a huge slump, they need him to get hot again. J.D. Martinez has not been good for this team over the last couple of weeks, and he's really regressed. So you're hoping the age thing and his back isn't catching up with him, but the Mets bats have got to come up big here because this is unacceptable.
All right, obviously, Polar Bear Pete wasn't on his game today, as well as the bats, like you're saying. But let's talk about pitching. How would you grade Christian Scott's outing? 4 innings pitched, 7 hits, giving up 3 earned runs, 4 strikeouts. What grade would you give Scott?
I'd probably give him a C. He's not getting deep enough into games, and thank God it looks like Kodai Senga will be back on Friday. The Mets badly need him, and everyone wants to talk about a 6-man rotation. They might have to do it without days off, but if there's a way they could work days off, they might have to skip Scott a few times because he's just not giving them innings. 4 innings. Last start, 4 1/3, 5 2/3, 5 2/3, 5. Since his first 2 starts of his career, he's really struggled to go deep into games, and they're going to be watching that pitch count. They're going to be watching his innings. He's going to have the innings limit. But Christian Scott, it's hard to see him last here these last 2 months, and not because he hasn't been that good. He's been fine, but because of the innings thing, I can't see Christian Scott being a mainstay in this rotation in August, September. He's part of this future, but I'd like to see him be able to go deeper into games and stop giving up the long ball. He's getting eaten alive by the home run ball, and that's what's plagued him so far.
All right, we got a small sample size so far. Obviously, only 3 games they've played since after the break. How do you think they've looked in these 3 games, in this series and after the break? Are they still one of the hottest teams in baseball? They kind of phased off.
Listen, I still think they're in the playoff race. I still think they should be buyers. I'm not one to say season. A lot of people were saying season over, be sellers after they lose Friday. They come back and win Saturday. It wasn't pretty Saturday either, 1-0. But this team's right in it. I'm not ready to panic yet. You lost 2 games to a Marlins team that always seems to have their number. It's unbelievable. Death taxes and big losses to the Marlins. The Mets have to come out tomorrow in this weird Monday night of 4-game set and beat the Marlins and set yourself up going to the Subway Series, making sure you're still in that wild card spot. I think this team's been frustrating after the break, and I had a feeling this might happen because when a team gets hot and then they have 4 days off, no one's at the All-Star break besides Pete Alonso. All these guys are on vacations. They're coming out sluggish, and you go to South Beach as the first spot, not exactly the perfect location to play baseball at. These guys, I'm sure they were on a yacht and partying it up. So not good so far, but I'm not worried yet. Go beat the Marlins tomorrow. David Peterson has been fantastic this season. They need a big win for Peterson, and then the Subway Series, and then the things get real interesting. 4 against the Braves at home, and then 3 against the Twins, and the trade deadline during that Twins series. So if the Mets win tomorrow and then split with the Yankees, they set themselves up for a must-watch 4-game set in Queens over the weekend.
Not the 2016 Giants playoff yacht from back in the day with Odell and them boys. But, Jake, tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, you can subscribe to the Sick Podcast Mets Magic on YouTube, wherever you get podcasts, at Sick Pod Mets on X, and follow me at Jake Brown Radio.